Good morning, good afternoon to all of you joining us for this keynote for the second day of the 2021 Club Leaders Conference. I think I know most folks on this session, but I'm Michael Gutz, Director of UVA Clubs and Global Engagement in the Office of Engagement at University Advancement. Very happy to be joining you today and for everything that's been taking place between yesterday afternoon and today as part of our Club Leaders Conference. So, hi from Glasgow, Scotland. Very nicely. That's fantastic. This is a global network. Hope it's beautiful there and that you're having a great time. Welcome, everyone. Just a couple quick housekeeping things. Please feel free to have your cameras on as much as you feel comfortable. We know that in this virtual world, a lot of life is going on around all of us, but we love to also be able to see everyone's faces and wave and have reactions and all that great stuff. So if you're comfortable with that, then please do feel free to turn your camera on. And also, please feel free to use the chat, the reactions, have lots of ways to participate even in this virtual space. So, well, today we are here to have a session to talk a little bit about club leader motivations and inspirations. And so we've got a bunch of club leaders who are here on this call. We have some who are our panelists today, but I'd like to invite those of you who are out in the audience to pop a thought or two into the chat box about what motivates you to do what you do for your local network of WHOs, for UVA clubs. Think that over, pop a sentence or a thought in when you have a chance. And while you're doing that, I just want to say, as we're all very aware here in the Office of Engagement, the great work that we do of connecting alumni, friends, and families around the world is made possible because of you, because of our volunteers. We have an incredible reach. We have an incredible program because you are so motivated and willing to put this time in to make this all work. And we're so grateful for that. And also very inspired by it. I think we're all inspired by it. I've felt this great love and care for this institution and for this community since I arrived here, and I've been very moved by it. I think it comes across in the interactions that we have, that you all have with alumni, family, and friends, in our communications and our programs. We're also aware it can be a lot of work. We know it's a labor of love because we all love UVA, but we also know that it can be a lot. And it raises the question, what motivates you? Our incredible volunteers. Why is it that you do what you do? So I'm not a volunteer here, of course. I have a job here, but I can say that I do what I do for a few reasons, because I love and believe in higher education, in UVA, and in the power of community and togetherness. And being at UVA and working with all of you has only increased that. And if anything, the experience of having to navigate this pandemic and coming through it with this great network of volunteers and this great network of colleagues and this incredible community has really strengthened all of my belief in all of those things. So lots of thoughts on that, but okay, Susie, loving, I'm going to the chat box and seeing some of the motivations that are included here, making sure everyone in Florida knows it's orange and navy blue. Very nice, like that. Lydia gives me a great excuse to explore New York City and do fun things. Yeah, exactly. And with people that you know and can have those experiences together. Robin in DC, keeping the spirit of Seaville and UVA alive in our local community. That's an awesome one. Please feel free to continue to throw those into the chat throughout the presentation or reactions to other pieces of the program as well. So today we're going to hear from three incredible UVA clubs leaders, and we have all incredible UVA clubs leaders, about what motivates and sustains them, and then to have a chance to dialogue a little bit with each other as well. But as we think about these themes about motivations and inspirations as we look to this academic year ahead. So with that, I'm very pleased to introduce Melvina Queen from the UVA Club of the Tidewater, Joanna Calabrese from the UVA Club of Los Angeles, and Hangwu Wang from the UVA Club of Seattle. And I'm going to turn it to each of them quickly to do a word about who they are and which club they're with. I just said that, and how long they've been involved and what motivated them to first get involved. And then we'll talk about some other pieces of our work together. So Joanna, can I start with you?
Sure. Good morning from Los Angeles, or good afternoon to people on the East Coast, or in Scotland, maybe good evening. Joanna Calabrese, I was COM 2004. I've been the president of UVA Club of LA since like the beginning of the pandemic. So it's been a fun kind of new way to be a leader here. I was a member since I joined. I moved out here 5 years ago. And then prior to that, I was on the UVA Club of DC for a few years leading their service team. So I just got inspired because I wanted, when I moved away from Charlottesville, wanted to keep in touch with kind of the UVA people, the UVA spirit, and meet new people. So that's one of the reasons I started to get involved originally.
Fantastic. And yeah, I forgot you really were getting involved as the leader of LA as we were entering this pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's a whole challenge in and of itself. But terrific. Thank you. Melvina, could I turn to you next?
Great. Hello, Wahoo Wah. I'm Melvina Queen. I'm the president for the UVA Club of Tidewater. And Tidewater, for everyone that doesn't know, is Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth, and Suffolk. So it's kind of a regional area. But I've been on the club for about 7 years. I kind of lost a little bit of track on how long I've actually been on. And what started me getting involved in the club was the question. Like, someone that I knew, one of my peers, asked if I wanted to get involved. And I think it was sold to me more in the avenue of event planning and getting everybody together and congregating with your fellow who's. So it's been a fun ride. It's still going. And I hope to talk with more of you like offline.
And Melvina is a pro at thinking of really fun and creative events. So you have embraced that, and we all learned from Tidewater, which is awesome. So thank you for being here and for your service. And Hong Wu.
So hi, Hong Wu Wang here. So I'm a board member of the Seattle Club. So I got involved in the club, I think from early 2019. So it's been a little bit more than 2 years now. The reason I got involved is more like personal. Like, I was an international student at the UVA. Like, for me, the University of Virginia is basically my entry point of the US. So for me, it's like a large part of my understanding of this country is defined by UVA. And I didn't realize this until I moved to London. And I was basically involved in a lot of events, well, as a participant of the UVA club in London. And then the rally happened in Charlottesville. And then you realize, oh my God, like a lot of your like people, when they learn about UVA, they ask you about Charlottesville, right? It's like, then I feel like, okay, like a large part of who people think you are, what people assume your experience is actually tied to the institution you're associated with. So when I moved back to the US into Seattle, I feel like, okay, if I have opportunity to influence the institution itself, maybe I should take the opportunity. And then an opportunity came in 2019. I took the opportunity and got involved in the board of the Seattle Club.
Fantastic, Hong. Thank you. Speaking a little bit to that community and a sense of giving back as well, which we're going to talk further about too. So, well, there's lots of things that go into being a club leader. We do a lot of different parts of this work, and there's board meetings, there's events, there's forums like this, and communications, there's interacting with OOE, there's all sorts of things. And so I'd like to ask each of you if you could reflect on a favorite memory. Maybe it's from an event, maybe it's from another part of your work with the board or your work as a volunteer with your club, but whether it's funny or meaningful or both, I'd love to hear some of those stories from you now. So Melvina, I wonder if I could start with you.
Yes, okay. I think one of my favorite memories, and I think Gina Rose is actually on the call, but one of my favorite memories, and it's actually a group of memories, is just being able to kind of connect with her. And the first time I met her was when we did a chalet, which is like a big tent at the Norfolk Wine Festival. And we did that a couple years in a row. It was a great event where we got to meet a lot of individuals, and it was kind of my introduction to like the Tidewater family in Norfolk. But it was a great opportunity to connect with Gina, who is a parent of two who's that graduated, I think, in the class of 2011. And she's a spouse as well of a double who. But it was just a great opportunity to connect with her and then eventually get her onto the board. And she's one of the best board members that I have right now. She's just so engaged. She's so welcoming, and she taps into that parent aspect too. So like we can always get parents involved and connected to the group. So there's so many different memories, but like just enjoying, I've loved being able to meet her, and our relationship will continue to go well beyond, UVA and everything else. So that's just a great memory. So she's on here today.
Love that. And hi, Gina. We know Gina well, and she is all of those wonderful things. And that is you're speaking to something that is a really powerful part of the experience for many, which is those long-term bonds and friendships and connections that can come out of UVA clubs, which is really powerful. Thanks, Melvina. Hongwoo, how about you?
For me, I had a very interesting experience. Like you saw this kind of things on TV program. Like when you volunteer, you run into some famous person. Like I actually ran into the CFO of Microsoft in one of the UVA club organized volunteer events. So we partnered with the YMCA, local YMCA, for the Adopt a Family event right before the Christmas. So a bunch of us were volunteering in the local YMCA facility, packing Christmas gifts. And then the CFO of Microsoft just walked in making her donations. So that was you kind of saw that, I think, on some of the I think it was like Friends, like one episode of Friends or some of the TV series, but it happened in the UVA club event. So that was fun.
Hongwoo, that's a great one and a great soundbite. Get involved with UVA clubs, meet famous people, and do service. That's great. Thank you. Joanna.
I have yet to meet any famous people during my volunteering, but I'm hoping. I live in Los Angeles. They should be around, right? I was actually thinking about this. I mentioned that I've been the president during the pandemic. So we had a holiday party 2 years ago in person, and it was fantastic. And when the holiday season came around again, my board was like, well, what in the world are we supposed to do? We can't get together. And I do want to give a shout out. There's another UVA club in Los Angeles, the Entertainment Club of LA, because we have so many entertainment people here. So Justin Paxton leads that as well. And he is just a fantastic partner in the Los Angeles area. We collaborate a lot on different events. So he and I got together and we were like, well, why don't we create like a holiday video that we can send out to everyone? And we reached out to different alumni in the LA area, and we have so many talented people. So 2 people did like a little jingle bells. They sang it. They had instrumentals. Shout out to my brother. He's 5 years younger. He used to live in Santa Monica. He did like a Christmas cocktail demonstration. And then another board member of mine, Tim Granlin, is a I don't know if professional, maybe semi-professional air guitar player. He's won awards, I believe. He finished off with like an air guitar jingle bell song at the end. It was just like a fun, creative way to get together to kind of spotlight some of our amazing alumni and to, celebrate everyone in our area and just wish them a happy holidays, even though we couldn't get together in person.
And it was hugely creative, and that speaks to something else about how everyone's been so inventive during this very unusual time, and that's helped keep the togetherness, which has been, I think, really meaningful for a lot of people, really important in this could otherwise be an isolating, experience for people. And Joanna, I think there's some future famous people in that video, so you've met people who are bound to be famous. Well, I would love to ask a little bit about what makes this work special for you. And in particular, I'm here based in Charlottesville, and our team is largely based in Charlottesville, though we have some folks in different places, but we work with this global network. In fact, many of you know Elizabeth Muse, our senior director. That's the name of her team, Global Engagement. We do that in all sorts of ways, the clubs and programming and all sorts of things. And so we're talking about UVA all over the world, near to and far from grounds. And that is our opportunity to keep those bonds and keep the connection to UVA even at that distance. So I'd love to ask each of you, what is especially special, that's how I'm phrasing it, about gathering who's away from grounds or online, which we've obviously done a lot of during this pandemic period. Joanna, why don't I throw it back to you to begin?
Sure. I think I really enjoy meeting people who are UVA alumni, meeting people you don't
Did we lose Joanna? This is the adventure of virtual programming. So we're going to give her a second to reconnect. And Hongwu, would you like to go?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's like what sets UVA apart is, at least for me as an international student, is the common experience we had at Charlottesville that's closely tied to the founding of this country, to the history of this country, to the struggle of this country historically, and to the public discourse this university trying to facilitate also in this country. I think that kind of like set UVA apart from many other great institutions. Like we just had a new student sent off recently, and I think all of us, like when we talk about the university, we talk about Thomas Jefferson, we talk about Monticello, we talk about the founding fathers' influence to the university. I think that's a very unique personality the university has, and also I'm particularly appreciative of the recent like democracy initiative that UVA is doing. I think it's like a great demonstration of the university and its community members are trying to do to facilitate a discourse about how the future of this country. Like I think I'm an international student. I'm actually Chinese, right? So like looking at what happened in the past few years in this country, I think it's a great experiment, and we need to make sure this experiment works. So I think the UVA community is playing a very, very constructive role in this process.
Thank you so much for that. Joanna, welcome back. We'll give you a sec to get resettled here, but glad to see you. And Melvina, can I go to you next on this?
Yes.
What's especially special about gathering who's away from grounds?
Yeah, so I think that it's definitely been a very especially special time. I think COVID kind of showed us that people needed connection. And so I think that I'm so proud of the university and the UVA club system and how we kind of led the initiative to stay connected during this time. It's something that you didn't really see a lot of other universities doing as well. They were trying, but not as well. And it just gave us that personal connection, even if we were still separated by computer screens. But it's still, like Hongwu just said, it still connected us with that identity of the university. And what better community or bigger community do we have than our universities? And I went to another place for grad school. I won't mention it here, but I never had that same connection. So it's definitely special to see somebody with that navy blue and orange and know that you have that common ground, and then to do fun things. And if you're in a different city and you don't know anyone, you can connect. Or especially during the pandemic, it was easy to join everybody online and it didn't matter where you were. We had, Charlottesville, Atlanta, anyone that wanted to craft at the same time, we could all get on together and stay connected, even while we're trying to socially distance and stay safe. So I think it's been a very special time. Even going in person, I just can't wait to kind of just see people and like just chant together. It's just going to be so fantastic.
I agree with you. Apropos of the comment about Glasgow on this program, we would have some of these online programs and people would chime in that they were from all, joining from all over the world is very special. But
and Glasgow's fantastic.
And it's fantastic, yeah.
I've been there too.
Joanna, over to you.
I am back from my phone this time. I was just going to piggyback on what Melvina said. I didn't quite realize that other universities don't have such a large kind of alumni group like we do. I thought this was what all schools did. And then I, talked to other friends that went to their schools and I was like, oh, I'm going to an alumni event, or I'm, leading this service project. They're like, oh, I don't do anything with my school anymore. And I was like, oh, that's too bad. I really enjoy it. And actually before this call started, I was in my parking garage and ran in, I live in a very large high rise in Los Angeles. I'm also on the other side of the country from Charlottesville. I don't expect to know anyone from UVA here. And I have a friend in the building who is a UVA alumni. And we realized this a couple of years ago. We were both in the elevator and one of us was wearing a UVA shirt. And we were like, oh, that's awesome. It's fun to find people that you connect with. And so I think someone mentioned this in the chat earlier when you asked that initial question, but it's that sense of community away from Charlottesville that I think is really exciting. And it makes me feel comfortable going to any sort of event here that's an alumni event, because I know we all went to Charlottesville. We have a shared experience. I'm very comfortable kind of going by myself and meeting people, knowing that you say, oh, wahoo wah, or the grounds or first year and people get it. So I think it's just a really special community, and I love being part of that.
I wholeheartedly agree. I was commenting to this group before that I love the whole wearing a V Sabre Virginia thing, and you will randomly get a Wahoo Wah or a Go Who's, or it's really very special and very fun, and that can happen anywhere in the world, which is incredible. All right, well, we do know that there's a lot that goes into being a club leader, and it can be challenging sometimes. And what is a challenge that you face as a club leader? Melvina, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think there's several challenges, but I'm trying to think of just one. And with that, like even with the challenges, I do think that UVA clubs and global engagement, you guys support every aspect when we do bring challenges to your awareness. So thank you for that. I think the biggest challenge right now for me is recruitment and retention of active board members. And a lot of the sessions I think have kind of centered around that as well. So I think we're all kind of on the same page, because you really want to like retain those like amazing board members that are active and getting things done. And it's just hard and a little bit difficult right now, but that's, I think, my biggest challenge. And I do have a lot of people that, you know, as they come to events, we can reach out to them and try to get them involved. But that is probably like the biggest challenge for me.
No, thank you for that. And it's one that we do here, and we try to think of ways to help club leaders support that. It's a very real one. Hangwu.
Yeah, I think what Malvina mentioned is absolutely, I definitely second that. And the other thing is, this may be uniquely a Seattle club. Like we have like more than 1,000 like alumni friends in the area. The thing is, people have very diverse in the right word, well, very different industry background, demographic background. So when you organize events, I think we are struggling a little bit is like how to identify that critical mass and create events that's relevant, that's of high quality, but that's also like a sustainable for the community. Because I think we have some great ideas that may work for a larger club in the sense that like if you want to go deep, for example, if you want to have a high quality panel, then you probably want to have some very, very specific topics. Then who's your target audience? Like you may not have a critical mass to have that kind of deep conversation. So I think we kind of, the way we are trying to address it is basically to have different target audience in mind when we create events. We have events tailored for younger people. We have events trying to targeting more like senior people in their career. We have like, I think in general, I don't think we find the magic like balance there yet. So I would also like to hear how other people think, but that's one of the challenges we are facing right now.
Yeah, thank you for that, Hangwu. It is the spectrum of programming, because of course people across our communities have different interests, backgrounds, all sorts of things, as you're saying. So thank you for volunteering that one. Joanna.
Yeah, I would agree with what both Melvina and Hangwu said. Hangwu, I agree. It's a little bit of trial and error sometimes, trying to see if an event is going to be super popular. And, you know, even if you get 5 or 10 people out, it sometimes can just be a great bonding experience. And it's also a learning experience. We have a small and mighty board here. There are 7 of us for the LA club. And I think everyone is awesome. They participate. Each person kind of takes their turn and leads a different event and supports us. We all agree on this pain point. LA is huge, and it is very difficult to find a central location to try to do something. I mean, even our board, the 7 of us live in completely different parts of the city that maybe are 5 to 10 miles away from each other, but are actually 45 minutes to an hour and a half to drive. So if we do an event in Santa Monica, which is the beach, someone who lives in Pasadena is not going to go to that. It's just too difficult. So we have done a really good job of trying to vary the location for our events. And then luckily, maybe the pandemic happened and all of our events went virtual. So it was actually, I think we had some really strong turnouts for events because people, even in San Diego, Orange County, San Francisco, we partnered with clubs all throughout California. And we said, it doesn't matter where you are anymore. I participated in events that New York and Charlottesville hosted and DC because I was still on their distros. And I thought that was a kind of neat thing. But now that the pandemic is starting to come to a close, we're thinking about doing in-person events again. And for example, game watches, we try to flip-flop between the east and west side of LA. You want to try to reach everyone as well as you can. So geography is a little bit of a challenge here in Los Angeles.
This is the cool part about global engagement, in my opinion, in my experience. I've worked in this studying at a couple different universities, and is that there's this energy about bringing the institution out to all these corners of the world and being able to celebrate grounds and UVA and who's in all these corners of the world. But to your point, Joanna, geography plays a role within each area of, how people get around and where to do things. And so you are right, that is one thing the virtual opened up. And of course, there's also this still wanting to have that special experience of being together, in your areas too. So this is something that we want, requires some thought and some planning. And to your point about trial and error, seeing what works in different places too, and all of those sorts of things. Yeah. So why do you three choose to support UVA through your volunteer service? You clearly believe in the institution, you're giving your time, you're giving your effort, and what is that rooted in for you? Hongwoo, would you like to begin?
Sorry about that. So for me, I think I think we touched on this already. So it's like the association with a great institution. I think the desire to contribute back to the community and just meet people, right? Like we have a great community locally in Seattle. So it's always fun to meet new people. And you always learn from some of your fellow alumni in the area. Like we do have like a very diverse alumni body, I think. Because I also run the email distribution list in Microsoft, where I work for Microsoft. So like whenever you ask the community to do something, like you just receive a lot of very, very positive feedback and engagement. I think that's also a very great learning opportunity to learn from the community, to see what they are willing to do and create some event opportunity out of their enthusiasm.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Joanna, would you go next?
Sure. I feel like I gained so much when I went to UVA, obviously knowledge, but friendships, a sense of community. I felt like I kind of moved into my adult life. And so you have that feeling of wanting to give back and support and make sure other people have that experience when they're there as well. 3 girlfriends of mine from UVA, we got together last weekend. We hadn't seen each other in over 2 years. And almost 20 years later, I'm still best friends with them. I was in all of their weddings. It just means a lot, these friendships I created as well. And so just loving my time and now getting to meet new alumni who graduated and learn about what they do and what their experience was like. People who are in different majors, I wouldn't have met them at UVA most likely. We were different years. We weren't in the same classes. And so to get to meet them now as an alumni, as an adult in a new city just means a lot and makes it just all the more worthwhile, that degree I have that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, fantastic. Melvina.
So I would say that I started volunteering probably in high school, but as I was at the university, I was the Madison House student. I was, volunteering at the Young Women's Leaders Program at the Women's Health Center. So being a volunteer for a community that I love, that I feel a part of, has always kind of been, first nature to me. So that just kind of continued, and I had the opportunity to come onto the board and be able to do that and to kind of be an example to other alumni and connect them to the university. And so it's something that I truly do individually, intrinsically enjoy doing, and connecting people and staying connected to a community that I love.
Fantastic. Those are wonderful, inspiring thoughts right there. And there's a couple others in the chat that have come in that I also just want to read. So I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Wahoo, and as such, I engage on any level I can to promote UVA in Vietnam. Serving as a club leader is just one way I do this. Because we have so few alums, our events usually cast a broad net to include invite and include lots of friends and would-be friends of UVA. Our alums are always proud of their UVA experience. We love getting together with like-minded souls and reliving the days in Charlottesville. It's a great thought. And, you know, the Office of Engagement and the UVA clubs, we are alumni, friends, and families. So kind of love that thought too about, I've been very inspired and impressed, and I've loved this part. You know, certainly alums are at the core of it, and that's probably most of who I interact with, but I've been at events where I've always met some just boosters of UVA, people who are locals or who always love the team or who taught here or worked here. I mean, that's really an inspiring part of it to me as well, and that is also the community, so that's reflected there. And then Joanna mentioned earlier her fellow Southern Californian, Justin Paxton, and he wrote, "Agreed, Joanna, because we're so far away from Charlottesville, there's a really special bond when you meet a fellow who. The amount of wahoo-wahs I have heard from the car while driving is actually shocking." That is both great. It's also funny. It's also so LA. There's a lot of time in the car in LA, yeah? And then LA clubs are big on pushing for Charlottesville townies to feel a part of our family as well. Love that, Justin. Love that. I really have found that in different events and programs and clubs. So. All right, well, I'd like to ask one more question of this panel, and then we're going to segue to another piece of this. But I'd like to ask the three of you to reflect on what makes the experience of being a UVA club leader so meaningful to you. We're talking to three dedicated club leaders through really great clubs. And so in this work and in this volunteer service, what makes it meaningful for you? And let's see, why don't we begin with Joanna?
Sure. Milvina kind of said this too. I started volunteering really early in my life. It was something my parents just kind of got me into, and I actually now work for a foundation. So it's really important to me to kind of do that giving back. But selfishly, I also really like networking and just meeting new people and bringing people together that I think might benefit from each other, you know, for their careers, for friendships, for the location they live in. And the UVA club really allows me to do that in a very comfortable, natural way. I also get a ton of enjoyment after every one of our service events. There's always one person who says, I'm now going to volunteer at this place on my own. You know, I don't need UVA to be bringing me here. Or that they now want to donate to the nonprofit that we worked at. And all we did was set up one very simple event, and then it trickles from there, and people continue to give back to, I think, some really important nonprofits in our area, or even, you know, to UVA as well. So I think it just makes me very happy to still be involved with the school that I think is just a really special place.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love that. It's sort of what happens at the events and programs, but also beyond, and the connections and the other service and the other philanthropy. That's terrific. Han Wu.
Yeah, for me, I think it's also like it's a great learning opportunity from the community. Just like in our most recent event, like one of our fellow board members actually shared her experience volunteering in the Tokyo Olympics. So she gave us a lot of like inside story of how the Olympics works from within. So it's like this community is just amazing. Like you have people from all different backgrounds. You have people from like a very, very diverse work experience. I think it's always fun to talk to like a fellow community members. Like even in our most recent event, the new student standoff, I actually ended up having a conversation with a father of a incoming student about like a Boeing in China. So it's you never know who are you going to run into. So it's always fun talking about all different kinds of topics. And we also have another like a student father who are talking about Olympics, and he worked with the Beijing Olympics committee to in the zoning of the Beijing Olympic Village. So it's like this community is just amazing. Like you always learn new things from the community.
That is fascinating. Those Olympic things are so fascinating. And you're right, there are so many interesting people and stories that you wouldn't necessarily have guessed until you have these opportunities to connect and converse. I'm glad you mentioned the send-offs. I love those send-offs. They have such great energy, and they are the excitement of UVA. They are the giving back generation to generation. And then there's the connections that lead to these interesting things like you're talking about. So that's awesome. Thank you, Hongwoo. And Melvina.
So I was going to mention student send-offs and accepted students parties, and just the opportunity that being a club leader, we always talk about representation and being an example for our young people. And so for our future and potential students, I love this opportunity to kind of connect and to show them what they could be, to either talk about networks, our industries that we're in, or just kind of staying connected to the university. So I love that aspect. And then also what's really meaningful to me, and I know I probably sound like a Hallmark card all the time, but it's really connecting with you all, because this network in itself is like a club within a club. We've had a lot of opportunities to connect with doing partnered events with DC and other, clubs. And so that's been really special and meaningful to like connect with other people in different regions and different states. So I know I sound like a very positive person all the time, so sorry, but I love you guys, so thanks.
No, we love that, Melvina. I'm going to hang on. Let me give that the heart emoji. That's so lovely. That's so lovely, and it's true. And that is really, I think, a big part of what makes us so special. I think that was always the case, and I think in this virtual, we really did see with all those different programming connections, people connecting across these different lines and across the country. Really, really very meaningful. We're so lucky to have this group. So we're so grateful to all of you. Well, Melvina, Joanna, and Hongwoo, thank you so much for sharing those thoughts with us. And what we'd like to do now, everyone, is we've got a lot of club leaders on the call. We've got a couple OE staff on the call. We'd like to mix it up and move to breakout rooms, just a couple folks per room. Sarah's, my wonderful colleague Sarah's going to help to set that up, totally randomly. And we'd love to give folks about 10 or 11 minutes to talk about that last question that our panelists just responded to. What motivates you to be UVA club leader? Maybe it's rooted in some of the sentiments you've heard. Maybe it's, connections or, people you've met along the way, or inspiring events, or all of the above, who knows? But we'd love for you in small groups to be able to discuss that for a bit. What motivates you to be UVA Club's volunteer and leader? And then we'll come back and we'll have a little bit of time before we close up the session. Sarah, do you need more time for the rooms? Oh no, they are set. So please feel free to join a room. We'll see you back here later. Well, welcome back, everyone. We hope that gave you a little bit of time to chat with each other about your experiences of what is so meaningful about being a UVA Club's leader. And I want to as we start to wrap up here, I just want to say, please feel free if you want to add anything to the chat. If anyone wants to unmute and say any particular thought that came up in their breakout room, please feel free.
I might just chime in and say, I find it really impressive. We were talking about this right at the end of our breakout session, that there are a lot of parents of alumni who did not go to UVA who are diehard UVA friends. I've had a couple of people show up at volunteering events. We have one couple, I can't tell you how many times they're like, our house in Beverly Hills is yours to use however you want it. And I'm like, great, thanks. Like, they've hosted both their kids go to UVA. And so I think it says a lot about our school that people that didn't even go there are really, really supportive and love to come to our events. So I like that we advertise to more than just the alumni, but also people connected to the school in different ways.
I completely agree. Oh, and look at Lydia. I've been slowly converting my Duke parents to be UVA fans. Lydia, nice job.
Yeah, we were just talking about that in the breakout room. My parents are about to move to Colorado too. So I was telling Chris that I'm going to, try to get them signed up on emails or, just the updates of what's going on there. So slowly but surely.
No, that's fantastic. And Lee says we even have grandparents of UVA students who are engaged. I agree with this whole theme and this whole thread that it is a big part of what makes it special. And what I want to thank all of you for is that I've been at events where families, parents, grandparents, friends are there, and UVA club leaders are always, to Joanna's point, so welcoming. It's not we're over here and parents can go. It's like everyone is just in on people being enthusiastic for the school. And to this point too, one of the parents I spoke with at a Lydia was the Long Island student send-off. He had been to a large public university in the Midwest. Anyway, his daughter was so excited about Virginia, is coming to Virginia, and he is now all in on Virginia. So he couldn't wait to get involved with anything related to UVA. So I think that really is great. Other thoughts or last little comments? Well, terrific. I want to thank you all so much. If we could give virtual rounds of applause to, especially to Hongwoo, Joanna, and Melvina. Thank you all for taking the time to be our panelists and share your thoughts. And then to our larger community here, as Melvina said, the club within the club. Thanks to all of you for your time today and your time always. Really delighted to have this experience together. So remember some great things this afternoon. We've got Highlight Your Who's at 4 o'clock. We have Club Leader 102 also at 4 o'clock. There's then a replay of the 101s and the 102s. Those are the basics of the events and communications and the finances and insurance. Those are at 5:30. And then the closing celebration with the one and only Cindy Frederick. And that will be at 7 o'clock tonight. And there are games and prizes at that. So do keep that in mind. And I think Ashley Grush is willing to do office hours if people have social media questions. And so please feel free to reach out to her if you have questions on that front too. Hope to see you at a couple other things this afternoon or tonight. Thanks for your time today, especially to our panelists. Have a great afternoon and go Who's.